Welcome to The Explainer. Artificial intelligence is everywhere, and it's promising to do some absolutely incredible things for us. But all that power, well, it comes with a huge responsibility. So today, we're diving into one of the biggest questions out there. How do we build AI that we can actually, truly trust?
So let's just start with a number that really frames this whole conversation. A study from the Markula Center found that more than half of us, over 50% of people, believe AI companies are basically failing when it comes to ethics. That's not just a number on a chart. That is a massive, massive trust problem. And it's the problem we need to solve.
Now, speaking of trust, we want to be totally upfront about how we made this explainer. Here at SSR Research and Development, we believe in transparency. So, full disclosure, we used AI tools to help put this together. But, and this is the most important part, every single word and image went through a full review and approval process by our human team. We're trying to walk the walk here.
Which brings us right back to the million-dollar question. It's one thing to know there's a trust gap, but it's another thing to know how to fix it. So how can businesses and developers actually build AI that earns our confidence? Let's dig in and find out.
Okay, before we jump into the solutions, let's take a second to really understand the stakes. What does it look like when we get this right? And more importantly, what are the real-world consequences when we get it totally wrong? And look, this isn't just some feel-good exercise. This is absolutely fundamental to whether a business succeeds or fails. On one hand, you've got responsible AI. That's how you build trust, you manage your risks, and you set yourself up for real, sustainable growth. But on the other side, irresponsible AI. That's a one-way ticket to a ruined reputation, massive legal headaches, and some very public, very costly failures. The choice seems pretty clear, doesn't it? Because the stakes are just so high, ethics isn't some side project anymore. It's not a nice to have. It is a core part of doing business, plain and simple. So let's break down the key principles that actually create that trust and success. First up, accountability. And the idea here is really simple, but it's also profound. You can't just blame the algorithm. If an AI system denies someone a loan or a self-driving car makes a bad call, you can't just throw your hands up. A human being or a team of them has to be responsible. It's all about making sure that at the end of the day, a person is on the hook. Next up is fairness. AI systems, they only learn from the data we feed them. So just imagine you're building a hiring tool, and you train it on 50 years of company data that's full of unconscious bias. Well, guess what? The AI is going to learn that bias perfectly, and it will start unfairly rejecting amazing candidates. Fairness means getting ahead of that and actively designing these systems so they give everyone a fair shot. And finally, there's transparency. This is the ultimate cure for what we call the black box problem. That's when an AI is so complicated that even the people who built it can't tell you exactly why it made a certain choice. And think about it. If you can't explain the why, there's no way you can build trust. Transparency is all about cracking that box open and making the AI's reasoning as clear as day. Okay, so we've got the what, accountability, fairness, transparency. But what about the how? How do we actually take these big ideas and bake them into the products we build every day? Well, let's look at a fantastic, practical framework that shows us the way. This is where the rubber really meets the road. The U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, put together a risk management framework that gives us this checklist. It turns vague concepts into real goals. It's not just about being fair, it's about having bias managed. It's not just about being secure, but also being resilient when things go wrong. It's a really comprehensive guide to what good actually looks like in practice. And this is the brilliant part. The NIST framework isn't just some document you read once. It's a living, breathing cycle, a simple four-step loop. First, you map out your context. What could go wrong? Then you measure everything, test for bias, for errors, for performance. Then you manage the risks you found. And holding it all together is govern. You build a culture of constant oversight. Any team, any company can start using this process right now. And I really want to double down on this point because as the research from SSR and the NIST framework both make crystal clear, you can have the most advanced tools for mapping and measuring in the world. But if you don't have a rock-solid foundation of governance, the whole thing just crumbles. This is about culture. It's about leadership making responsible AI a non-negotiable priority. So when you start to put it all together, the core principles and a practical framework like MIST, you have this light bulb moment. You realize this whole thing isn't about red tape or extra costs. It's actually a huge strategic advantage. This quote from the SSR research paper just says it all, doesn't it? This isn't a box you can just tick and say, okay, we're done with ethics. No way. It's a constant commitment. It's a journey of always watching, always learning, and always getting better. That's how you build things that last, and that's how you build real confidence. So as we wrap this up, let me leave you with this one last thought. In this new age of AI, the companies that are going to win, they won't just be the ones with the smartest code. They'll be the ones who have earned our trust. And so I'll leave you with this question to carry with you. Take it back to your team, to your company. Take a really hard look at the AI you're building or the AI you're using every day, and ask yourself, is this creating real, lasting value? Or is it quietly creating a huge amount of risk? Because the answer to that question, well, that's going to define your future. Thanks for watching.